Hi guys, welcome to another Hashman Ross video tutorial. Today's tutorial is called Go With The Flow, and I would like to talk about fluid sketching. It is a difficult topic because it's very much connected to a feeling of how you draw. So I thought it would be good for you to watch me do it. And that's why the video tutorial is perfect. And I left some of the sketches in real time, some parts of the sketches in real time, and parts I sped up a bit. I picked yoga poses, and the first one took me actually 16 minutes, all in all, start to finish. But yes, as I mentioned, I sped up parts of it, and I always left when I sort of started a new layer and a new iteration by sort of refining on the new layer. Then I sort of left it in real time and then sped it up again. So what do you have to think about is to get the first flow right, which is the rough sketch on the very beginning. There you define the complete movement of the sketch. Afterwards, you're just layering details on top, which all have to follow the flow as well. But these large, long, flowing strokes from the beginning, where you just feel the movement. And here I suggest to draw from the arm, not the wrist. This is something you have to train to do. It's not easy. It didn't come easy to me because I was a niggly kind of drawer. I sketched very much from just the hand, and that in the detailed drawing can be very helpful, and you get good results. But especially in the underdrawing, when you're sort of trying to get the real movement in there, it won't help you to be niggly, because then you just won't get the whole picture. And here, yes, do not draw one part of the body after the other. So first I get the head right, then I get the torso right, then I get the legs right. No, you try to align everything in big, long strokes. Align everything along this like action line. I used to not understand action lines because I was thinking this line doesn't really exist in the character. And it's not about this line being actually there, but it's about the body parts following the movement and not sort of suddenly changing direction or the movement and sort of breaking the flow by doing so. So even before you start drawing, you can sort of try to do long flowing strokes with your hand before you even touch it, and then just repeat the same big strokes, but touching the paper or the tablet. Just sort of practicing the fluid stroke on beforehand helps by sort of getting this flow right. And then when you're layering details on top, you need to keep this flow going. And the flow is by sort of giving each body part an own flow, and each line basically an own thing it follows by itself. You can really do it super flowy, and then you'll get a very, very mushy kind of wiggly character, which reminds you of a snake. Characters have angles as well, and you can add these later. But since you've got the flow right at on the bottom, you can then later add some angles and everything. I often like to do very flowy drawings. I've already talked about this, but that you sort of add some straights versus the curves, and that's where this applies as well. But that applies more in the details later than in the first stage, where you sort of try to get just to catch the movement. And while sketching flowy, I think part of doing that as well is capturing the volumes while sketching. And that's not by sort of constructing completely. I mean, I construct while sketching all the time, but it's not about a ball and a square for the legs or anything. It's just sort of finding the right shapes to build your construction from. And these shapes always hint at the volume as well. Sort of like, where is the torso curving around? How would if there was a belt, which part of the body, how would it follow? Is it a flat curve or is it a very, very non-flat curve? I think you get what I mean. And I always talk about volumes, but that's what it really boils down to often: the movement and the volumes. And if you get those right, you can basically draw anything. Okay, proportions as well. There's a lot of things which are important. And apropos, if you get those wrong, it doesn't break the flow necessarily by sort of changing like the size of the head if you got that wrong, or changing the legs. I don't know. It's just when you change it again, then you have to make sure it follows the flow again and that you didn't sort of break the flow because of changing some part of the body. But I really enjoy changing parts of my sketches because it's just so much nicer than having to draw everything again. And when you draw something again, it looks worse than the one you did. And then you can just sort of make the head a bit smaller or a bit bigger, and you're in heaven and not having to redraw it. So yes, but this is pretty basic stuff. You know this. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think that covers the flowiness and the flowiness of sketching. I mean, I'm sure there's millions ways of sketching, but just by doing this at the very bottom, I think you will really find at the bottom sketch. I mean, like the really just looking for the big general movement and flow of things. That will really help you. And by not going into detail directly, but just sort of working out where everything goes and in what kind of flow. Follow lines through. Also, where you sort of have like the upper body in front of the lower part of the body. Check where would the leg go through, and sort of that you don't have the leg coming out at the wrong part of the body. Stuff like that. Following lines through, really important. So I hope this helped, and that I will see you next time. Thank you for making these tutorials possible. You're great for letting me do this, because I grow and you grow and we all grow, and I'm really happy that we can do this. So thank you and see you next time. Bye bye.